Alana Mitchell was 32 years old when she vanished on her way to the airport in May 1991. Her car was found in the long-term parking lot. Her uniform was pressed and ready. Her passport was at home. And for 21 years, no one knew what happened to her. Until forensic scientists found microscopic evidence trapped beneath her fingernails, evidence that would reveal not just who killed Alana, but why she had to die. This is the story of a dream that turned into a nightmare, a controlling boyfriend who couldn't let go, and the science that finally brought justice 2 decades too late. Before we dive into Alana's story, drop your city and country in the comments below. Let's see how far this story reaches around the world. Now let's go back to May 15th, 1991, Decatur, Georgia. The alarm clock went off at 4:30 a.m. in the small house where Alana Mitchell lived with her mother, Madison Grant. Alana had barely slept. Her first international flight Atlanta to Paris was scheduled to depart at 11 a.m., and Delta Airlines required all crew members to arrive 4 hours early for international routes. Security checks, crew briefings, new route procedures. Everything had to be perfect. Madison found her daughter in the kitchen at 4:45 a.m., already dressed in her Delta uniform. The navy blue jacket was perfectly pressed, the white blouse crisp, the red scarf tied just right. But Alana's hands were shaking as she held her coffee cup, and her eyes were red from crying. Madison knew immediately something was wrong. Alana had waited 3 years for this moment, 3 years of domestic flights, of building seniority, of proving herself reliable enough for international routes. This Paris flight was supposed to be the pinnacle of her career, but instead of excitement, Madison saw fear in her daughter's face. The truth came out in fragments over those early morning minutes. Tyler West, Alana's boyfriend of 2 years, had fought with her the night before. He didn't want her going to Paris, said the flight was too long, said he didn't trust what she'd do overseas, said she was choosing work over their relationship. The argument had lasted hours, Tyler's voice getting louder, his grip on Alana's arm getting tighter, until finally she'd told him she was going home. She'd driven back to her mother's house around midnight, exhausted and shaken, but determined to make her flight the next morning. Madison had never liked Tyler West. From the moment Alana introduced him 2 years earlier, something about Tyler had set off alarm bells. He was too intense, too possessive, too quick to anger. Madison had seen the bruises on Alana's arms, the ones Alana explained away as accidents grabbed too hard during a conversation, bumped into a door, nothing serious. But Madison knew. She'd lived through an abusive marriage herself years ago. She recognized the signs. But Alana was in love, or thought she was. And at 32 years old, she made her own choices. All Madison could do was be there when things fell apart. And on this Wednesday morning in May 1991, Madison had a terrible feeling that things were about to fall apart in a way neither of them could predict. Alana left the house at 5:20 a.m. She kissed her mother goodbye, grabbed her uniform bag, and walked out to her red Honda Civic parked in the driveway. Madison watched from the living room window as Alana got into the car, started the engine, and backed out onto the street. The taillights glowed red in the pre-dawn darkness, growing smaller and smaller until they disappeared around the corner. Madison stood at the window for a long moment after the car was gone, a sense of dread settling over her that she couldn't explain. She would later tell police that she'd had a feeling, a mother's intuition, that something terrible was about to happen. By noon that same day, Madison received a phone call that confirmed her worst fears. Delta Airlines Human Resources was calling to ask if Madison knew where Alana was. She hadn't shown up for the crew briefing, hadn't checked in at the gate, hadn't called to explain her absence. Flight 447 to Paris had departed at 11 a.m. with a replacement flight attendant, and Alana Mitchell was officially missing. But what Madison didn't know yet, what nobody knew, was that Alana's body was already buried 6 feet under freshly poured concrete in an abandoned warehouse on Atlanta's south side. And the man who put her there was sitting at home, waiting for the phone to ring, rehearsing the story he would tell police. Madison's panic was immediate and visceral. She hung up with Delta and immediately tried calling Alana's number. The phone rang and rang before going to voicemail. Alana's voice, cheerful and professional, asked callers to leave a message. Madison called again, and again, and again. Each time the same result, no answer. just that recorded voice, now sounding impossibly distant and ghostly. At 1 p.m., Madison called Tyler West. He answered on the third ring, his voice groggy and confused, like he'd just woken up. When Madison told him that Alana hadn't shown up for her flight, Tyler sounded genuinely surprised. He said Alana had left his place the night before, around 10 o'clock after they'd had dinner. He'd been asleep when she left for the airport that morning, but had heard the door close around 5:30. He had no idea where she could be now. His confusion seemed real. His concern seemed genuine. And for a brief moment, Madison wondered if she'd been wrong about Tyler all along. But that doubt didn't last long, because when Madison went to check Alana's room at 2 p.m., looking for any clue about where her daughter might have gone, she found something that made her blood run cold. Alana's passport was still there, sitting in her uniform bag on the dresser. The bag she'd been planning to take with her to Paris. The passport she would have needed to board an international flight. Alana had left home that morning intending to go to the airport. She'd been dressed in her uniform. She'd kissed her mother goodbye. She'd driven away in her car. But somehow she'd left behind the one thing she absolutely needed to get on that plane, which meant either Alana had forgotten it in her nervous state, unlikely for someone as meticulous as Alana, or something had happened between leaving home and reaching the airport. Something that had prevented her from coming back for her passport. Something that had prevented her from going to work. Something that had made Alana Mitchell vanish without a trace. At 2:30 p.m., Madison called the Decatur Police Department. She told the desk officer that her daughter was missing. 32 years old. Left home at 5:20 a.m. Should have been at work by 7 a.m. Never arrived. Phone won't answer. Car is missing. The officer took down the information politely and patiently, but Madison could hear the skepticism in his voice. Adults went missing all the time, he explained, especially young women. They got cold feet about commitments. They ran off with boyfriends. They needed space. Give it 24 hours. If Alana didn't turn up, they'd open an investigation. But Madison knew her daughter. Alana was responsible, organized, and professional. She'd spent 3 years working toward this Paris flight. She would never, ever just not show up, and she certainly wouldn't leave her passport behind if she were planning to disappear. Something terrible had happened. Madison could feel it, and she wasn't going to wait 24 hours to find out what Thursday morning, May 16th, 1991. Exactly 24 hours after Alana Mitchell walked out of her mother's house and disappeared, Detective Logan Pierce was assigned to the case. Logan was 38 years old with 12 years on the Decatur police force, and he'd handled dozens of missing person cases over his career. Most of them ended the same way: adult went somewhere without telling family, came back a few days later with a sheepish apology. Lovers' quarrels, family drama, cold feet about major life decisions. But when Logan sat down with Madison Grant at her kitchen table that Thursday morning and looked at Alana Mitchell's photo, a beautiful woman with light brown skin, curly hair, and bright green eyes, smiling confidently in her Delta uniform, something told him this case was different. There was something in Madison's voice when she described her daughter, a certainty, a bone-deep knowledge that Alana hadn't just run off, that something bad had happened. Logan took detailed notes as Madison walked him through the timeline. Alana left home Wednesday morning at 5:20 a.m., headed for the airport. She was supposed to report for duty at 7 a.m. for an 11 a.m. flight to Paris. She never arrived, never called. Her car was missing. Her passport was at home. Madison had last seen Tyler West, Alana's boyfriend, on Tuesday evening when Alana had driven to his place for dinner. According to Tyler, Alana had left around 10 o'clock, but Madison knew they'd argued, knew Tyler didn't want Alana taking international flights, knew Tyler had a history of being controlling, possessive, and occasionally violent. Logan made a note to interview Tyler West immediately. In missing person cases involving young women, the boyfriend was always the first person to investigate. Statistically, intimate partners were responsible for the majority of female homicides. And even though there was no body, no crime scene, no evidence of foul play, Logan's instincts told him to look closely at Tyler. That afternoon, Logan brought Tyler West into the station for questioning. Tyler arrived wearing work clothes, jeans, Boots, a flannel shirt dusted with concrete powder. He was tall and muscular, with a scar across his left cheek that looked like it came from a knife or broken glass. He seemed cooperative, even concerned, but there was something in his eyes that made Logan uneasy. A calculation. A careful measuring of every word before he spoke. Logan asked Tyler to walk him through the last time he saw Alana. Tyler's story was simple and consistent. Alana had come over Tuesday evening around 6 o'clock. They'd had dinner, takeout Chinese food. They'd watched TV around 9:30. Alana said she needed to get home because she had an early morning. She'd left around 10 o'clock, maybe a little after. Tyler had gone to bed shortly after. He'd heard someone leave the apartment early Wednesday morning around 5:30, based on the sound of the door closing, and assumed it was his roommate leaving for an early shift. He didn't realize until Madison called Wednesday afternoon that Alana had never made it to the airport. Logan watched Tyler's face carefully as he told this story. There was one moment, just a split second, where Tyler hesitated when asked if everything had been okay between him and Alana on Tuesday night. Tyler had paused, eyes flickering to the side, before answering that everything was fine. That tiny hesitation told Logan what he needed to know. Tyler was lying. Something had happened Tuesday night that Tyler didn't want to talk about. But lying wasn't a crime, and without evidence, without a body, without witnesses, without any proof that Alana had even been harmed, Logan couldn't arrest Tyler West. All he could do was keep digging, keep asking questions, keep following the trail until he found out what really happened to Alana Mitchell. On Friday, May 17th, 2 days after Alana vanished, airport security called Detective Logan Pierce with news that would crack the case wide open. Well, not wide open, but open enough to confirm Logan's worst suspicions. Alana Mitchell's red Honda Civic had been found in the long-term parking lot at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, parked near Terminal B. The car had been sitting there for 3 days with no parking ticket purchased, accumulating penalty fees. And when Logan arrived to examine the vehicle, what he found inside would tell him everything he needed to know about what happened the morning Alana disappeared. Or rather, what he didn't find would tell the story. Logan spent an hour processing Alana's car. It was locked when security found it, which meant Alana had deliberately parked it there and walked away. The interior was clean, no signs of struggle, no blood, no torn fabric, no indication of violence. Alana's fingerprints were on the steering wheel, the door handle, the gear shift. But there was no bag, no uniform jacket, no purse, nothing that would indicate Alana had actually intended to board a flight that morning. Logan stood in the parking lot, reconstructing the timeline. Alana left her mother's house at 5:20 a.m., drove to the airport, parked in the long-term lot. Then what? She should have walked into the terminal, checked in with her crew, gone through security, prepared for the flight. But she never made it that far. Security footage from 1991 was grainy and limited, only a handful of cameras covering the terminal entrances, and most of that footage had already been recorded over after 3 days. Logan requested what little remained, but none of it showed Alana Mitchell walking into the airport, which meant one of two things. Either Alana parked her car and then left the airport with someone else willingly or unwillingly, or Alana never actually made it out of her car. Maybe someone was waiting for her in the parking lot. Maybe someone forced her into another vehicle. Maybe someone attacked her right there and drove her body away while leaving her car behind to make it look like she'd run off on her own. Logan's mind kept circling back to Tyler West, the hesitation during the interview, the too calm demeanor, the history of controlling behavior and violence. Tyler had means. He was strong enough to overpower Alana. He had motive. He didn't want Alana taking international flights, didn't want her having independence, didn't want it to lose the control over him. But did he have opportunity? Logan pulled Tyler's work records. Wednesday, May 15th, 1991. Tyler had clocked in at his construction job at 9 a.m., which meant he had a window of time between 5:30 a.m. when he claimed he heard someone leave his apartment and 9 a.m. when he showed up at work. 3.5 hours, plenty of time to follow Alana to the airport, intercept her in the parking lot, kill her, hide her body, and make it back to work like nothing happened. But proving it would be another matter entirely. Logan's breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Brooke Carter, one of Alana's fellow flight attendants and closest friends from their training class, called the police station 3 days after Alana disappeared. Brooke had been in Los Angeles on a long-haul flight when Alana vanished and had only just heard the news. She had information, she said, information about Tyler West that might explain what happened to Alana. Logan met Brooke at a coffee shop near the airport. She was in her early 30s, blonde, nervous, twisting her hands together as she talked. She'd known Alana for 3 years since they'd gone through flight attendant training together in 1988. They'd flown dozens of routes together, spent countless hours in airport lounges and hotel rooms, talked about everything: relationships, careers, dreams, fears. And Brooke knew things about Tyler West that Alana had been too scared to tell her own mother. The relationship had started sweet, Brooke explained. Tyler had swept Alana off her feet with grand romantic gestures, flowers, expensive dinners, weekend trips to Savannah and Charleston. But within a few months, the sweetness had curdled into something darker. Tyler wanted to know where Alana was at all times. He'd call her multiple times a day, sometimes in the middle of flights, angry when she didn't answer immediately. He'd show up at the airport unannounced to surprise her after work, but really to make sure she wasn't talking to male crew members. He'd go through her phone, her mail, her schedule, looking for evidence of betrayal that didn't exist. The physical violence had started small, a hand gripping her arm too tightly during an argument, a shove that Alana explained away as accidental. But it had escalated. Brooke had seen the bruises, dark purple marks on Alana's upper arms, her wrists, once a faint handprint around her throat that Alana tried to cover with makeup and a scarf. Each time, Alana made excuses. Tyler had a bad day at work. Tyler was stressed about money. Tyler didn't mean it. It wouldn't happen again. But Brooke knew better. She'd encouraged Alana to leave, to report Tyler to the police, to get a restraining order. Alana always said she would, soon, when the time was right. After she got this promotion, after she got that flight assignment, after, always a reason to wait. And then Brooke told Logan something that changed everything. 2 weeks before Alana disappeared, she'd confided in Brooke about something Tyler had asked her to do, something that had terrified her, something that made her finally decide to end the relationship. Tyler wanted Alana to carry packages on her international flights. Small packages, he said, just documents for business associates overseas. He'd pay her a few $100s per trip. Easy money. But Alana knew better. She knew those packages weren't documents. She knew Tyler was asking her to smuggle drugs. And she knew that if she refused, Tyler wouldn't let it go quietly. Logan leaned forward, pulse quickening. This was the motive he'd been looking for. This was why Alana had to die. Brooke continued, voice shaking. Alana had refused Tyler's request, told him absolutely not, said if he ever asked again, she'd report him to the police. That conversation happened on May 10th, 5 days before Alana vanished. According to Brooke, Tyler had gotten furious, grabbed Alana's arm hard enough to leave finger-shaped bruises, told her she was making a huge mistake, said people who betrayed him didn't end well. Alana had been genuinely frightened, Brooke said, frightened enough that she decided to break up with Tyler as soon as she got back from her Paris flight. She'd even asked Brooke to be there when she did it, just in case Tyler got violent. But Alana never made it to Paris, and she never got the chance to break up with Tyler, because somewhere between leaving her mother's house at 5:20 a.m. on May 15th and her car being found at the airport later that day, Alana Mitchell had encountered Tyler West one final time. And this time, there was no walking away. Logan immediately wanted to arrest Tyler, bring him in, charge him with murder. But the district attorney's office said no. No body, no crime scene, no physical evidence linking Tyler to Alana's disappearance. Brooke's testimony about the drug smuggling conversation would help establish motive, but it wasn't enough for a conviction. They needed more. They needed proof. For weeks, Logan worked the case, interviewed everyone who knew Alana and Tyler, searched Tyler's apartment with a warrant and found nothing incriminating. Followed Tyler, hoping he'd lead them to Alana's body. But Tyler was careful, too careful. He went to work, came home, stayed away from the places he used to go with Alana. If he'd killed her, he'd hidden the evidence well. By July 1991, the case had gone cold. Alana Mitchell was officially a missing person, presumed dead but with no evidence to prove it. Madison Grant held a memorial service without a body to bury. Delta Airlines gave Alana a posthumous commendation for her years of service. And Tyler West went on living his life, free and clear, while Alana's family suffered without answers. For 20 years, Alana Mitchell's case sat in a filing cabinet at the Decatur Police Department, an unsolved mystery, a missing woman with no leads, no witnesses, no body. Logan Pierce retired in 2005, haunted by the case he had never been able to close. Madison Grant died in 2006 from pancreatic cancer. Her final words a plea to anyone listening: "Find my daughter. Please, someone find my baby." The case might have stayed cold forever if not for two things. First, advances in forensic technology that made it possible to extract DNA from samples that would have been useless in 1991. And second, the dogged determination of one detective who refused to let Alana Mitchell be forgotten. Detective Samantha Ward joined the Atlanta Police Cold Case Unit in 2011, exactly 20 years after Alana Mitchell disappeared. Samantha was 38 years old with 15 years on the force, and she'd made it her mission to solve cases that everyone else had given up on. When her supervisor handed her a stack of old files and told her to pick a few to review, Samantha found herself drawn to Alana's story. A young flight attendant with her whole life ahead of her, a controlling boyfriend with a history of violence, a suspicious disappearance with no body, no evidence, no resolution. It was exactly the kind of case Samantha specialized in, the kind that kept her up at night until she found answers. Samantha spent months reviewing every document in Alana's file, every witness statement, every search record, every dead-end lead that Logan Pierce had followed in 1991. And slowly a pattern emerged. Tyler West had worked construction in 1991. His company specialized in concrete work foundations, floors, industrial buildings. And in May 1991, the week Alana vanished, Tyler's company had been working on a project at an abandoned warehouse on Atlanta's south side. Samantha pulled Tyler's employment records, May 15th, 16th, and 17th, 1991. Tyler had clocked in for work at the warehouse all 3 days. The same days Alana disappeared, the same location where, according to project logs, Tyler's crew had been pouring fresh concrete for new flooring. Samantha's pulse quickened. If Tyler had killed Alana, he would have needed somewhere to hide the body, somewhere secure, somewhere he had access to, somewhere he could bury her deep enough that she'd never be found. An abandoned warehouse with fresh concrete would be perfect. In October 2011, Samantha got a warrant to search the warehouse. It had been abandoned since the mid-1990s, scheduled for demolition. The interior was a maze of graffiti-covered walls, broken windows, and debris. But the floor was solid. Thick industrial concrete poured in 1991 and never disturbed. Samantha brought in ground-penetrating radar. The scan took 6 hours, the technicians slowly moving the equipment across every inch of the floor, looking for anomalies beneath the surface. At 3 p.m., the technician called Samantha over. There, on the screen, 6 feet below the concrete, a rectangular shape, human-sized. Samantha ordered excavation. It took 3 days to break through the concrete and remove the debris. And on October 14, 2011, 20 years and 5 months after Alana Mitchell vanished, they found her. Human remains wrapped in plastic sheeting, buried beneath 6 feet of concrete. Dental records confirm the identity: Alana Mitchell. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the skull. Time of death: consistent with May 1991. But forensics found something else, something that would finally bring Tyler West to justice. Dr. Rebecca Hughes, the forensic pathologist assigned to examine Alana's remains, noticed something unusual when she inspected the hands. Under UV light, she could see tiny fragments of biological material trapped beneath Alana's fingernails. Skin cells, preserved by the plastic wrapping in the airtight concrete burial that had protected the remains from complete decomposition. Alana had fought back. In her final moments, facing her killer, she'd scratched and clawed and fought for her life. And in doing so, she'd marked him, taken his DNA, left evidence that would survive 2 decades and ultimately convict him of murder. The DNA was degraded. 21 years underground will do that, but it was analyzable. If Samantha could get a sample from Tyler West to compare it against, they might finally have the evidence they needed for conviction. But getting that sample wasn't easy. Samantha couldn't just walk up to Tyler and demand his DNA. She needed probable cause, a court order. evidence linking him to the crime beyond just circumstantial suspicion. Samantha dug deeper into Tyler's life after 1991. He'd continued working construction in Atlanta until 1998, when he'd suddenly moved to Memphis, Tennessee. New job, new city, new life. Why? Samantha tracked down Tyler's old co-workers and neighbors. They all said the same thing. Tyler had changed after 1991, became quieter, more paranoid, started drinking heavily, and in 1998 he'd told people he needed to leave Atlanta. Too many memories, too much stress. One neighbor remembered Tyler seeming genuinely afraid of something, like he was running from a past that was catching up to him. Samantha also found Tyler's 1991 phone records archived in old police files. On May 14th, the night before Alana vanished, Tyler had made a call to an unlisted number. Samantha traced it Miami area code, disconnected in 1992. But archived police databases showed the number had been linked to a drug trafficking investigation. Tyler hadn't just been asking Alana to smuggle drugs. He'd been part of an organization. And when Alana threatened to go to police, Tyler couldn't let her live. Not just because she could destroy his relationship, but because she could destroy an entire criminal network. Armed with this evidence, Tyler's access to the burial site, his phone records showing connections to drug trafficking, and his sudden flight from Atlanta, in 1998, Samantha went to a judge in November 2012 and requested a warrant to compel Tyler West to provide a DNA sample. The judge reviewed the evidence and agreed. Tyler West was ordered to submit a cheek swab for DNA testing. If the DNA under Alana Mitchell's fingernails matched Tyler's DNA, it would be proof that he'd killed her. 21 years after getting away with murder, Tyler West was about to be caught by the microscopic evidence he'd left behind. Tyler was served with the court order in December 2012. He provided the DNA sample without protest, but Samantha could see the fear in his eyes. He knew what was coming, knew that after 2 decades of freedom, his time was up. The DNA analysis took 3 months. The samples were degraded, requiring complex testing procedures and multiple verification steps. But in February 2013, Dr. Rebecca Hughes called Samantha with the results. Detective Ward, we have a match. The skin tissue under Alana Mitchell's fingernails matches Tyler West's DNA at 99.9% probability. Samantha closed her eyes. After 22 years, they finally had him. March 5, 2013, Memphis, Tennessee. Tyler West was at home when police arrived with an arrest warrant. He didn't resist, didn't try to run, just stood there, hands behind his back, as they read him his rights. Murder in the first degree, concealing a body, obstruction of justice. Tyler was extradited to Atlanta and held without bail. His attorney, Hunter Graham, knew immediately that this case would be nearly impossible to win. The DNA evidence was damning. The circumstantial evidence was overwhelming. And Tyler's own behavior, his flight from Atlanta in 1998, his history of violence against Alana, his connection to drug trafficking, all pointed to guilt. In pretrial negotiations, Graham tried to get Tyler to accept a plea deal, plead guilty to second-degree murder, get 25 years instead of life. But Tyler refused. He wanted to take his chances with a jury. Maybe he thought he could spin a story that would create reasonable doubt. Maybe he genuinely believed he'd get away with it again. Or maybe, after 22 years of living with the guilt, he wanted his day in court, wanted to finally tell his side of the story. January 2014, Fulton County Courthouse. Judge Colin Spencer presiding. The trial of Tyler West for the murder of Alana Mitchell began with intense media coverage. It had everything the press loved: a cold case solved by DNA, a domestic violence angle, a drug trafficking connection, and a 22-year gap between crime and justice. Assistant District Attorney Nicole Barnes delivered the opening statement for the prosecution. She painted a picture of Alana Mitchell as a young woman full of dreams and ambition, working hard to build a career as a flight attendant. And she painted Tyler West as a controlling, violent man who couldn't accept that Alana was slipping away from him. When Alana refused to help him smuggle drugs and threatened to go to police, Tyler had killed her, buried her body beneath 6 feet of concrete, and walked away thinking he'd gotten away with murder. The evidence Nicole presented was devastating. Rebecca Hughes testified that the skin cells found under Alana's fingernails matched Tyler West's DNA with 99.9% certainty. This wasn't transfer from casual contact, she explained. This was skin torn off during a violent struggle. Alana had fought for her life, and in doing so, she'd marked her killer. Brooke Carter testified about Tyler's controlling behavior, his history of violence against Alana, and the conversation where Tyler had asked Alana to smuggle drugs on her international flights. When Alana refused and threatened to report him, Tyler had told her that people who betrayed him didn't end well. Construction records showed Tyler had worked at the warehouse where Alana's body was found during the exact week she disappeared. He had access. He had means. He had the expertise to pour concrete and hide a body where it would never be discovered. Tyler's 1991 phone calls to a number linked to drug trafficking investigations established his connection to organized crime and explained why he couldn't let Alana go to police. Tyler's sudden move to Memphis in 1998 showed consciousness of guilt. Innocent people don't flee. Hunter Graham tried to mount a defense, but there was little he could do. He suggested the DNA might have gotten under Alana's nails through innocent contact days before her death. But Dr. Hughes countered that the quantity and location of the skin cells was consistent with fresh trauma, not old contact. Graham suggested that someone else might have buried Alana at the warehouse, and Tyler's work there was coincidental. But Nicole Barnes presented testimony from Tyler's former supervisor, confirming that Tyler had worked late, alone on May 15th, 16th, and 17th, exactly when the body would have been buried. The jury deliberated for 5 days. On February 3, 2014, they returned with a verdict. Guilty, first-degree murder. Judge Colin Spencer sentenced Tyler West to life in prison without possibility of parole. Before the sentence was carried out, Tyler was given the opportunity to make a statement. He stood at the defense table, hands shaking, and finally told the truth. "I'm sorry," Tyler said, voice breaking, "to Alana's family, to everyone. I loved Alana, but I was scared of losing her, scared of what she knew. When she said she was going to the police, I panicked. I followed her to the airport that morning, found her in the parking lot. We argued. She tried to walk away. I grabbed her. She fought me, scratched my face, and I hit her. I didn't mean to kill her, but she fell, and she wasn't breathing. I panicked, put her in my truck, took her to the warehouse, buried her, thought I could live with it, but I couldn't. Every day for 22 years, I've seen her face. I'm sorry." The courtroom was silent. Then Judge Spencer struck his gavel. "The sentence stands. Tyler West, you will spend the rest of your life in prison." April 2014. Atlanta held a memorial service for Alana Mitchell. Delta Airlines sent representatives. Former co-workers shared memories. Madison Grant's sister spoke on behalf of the family, thanking the detectives who never gave up. Samantha Ward spoke briefly. Alana Mitchell fought back. She left evidence that would survive 2 decades. Justice took too long, but it came. Alana's remains were buried at Greenwood Cemetery beside her mother's grave. The headstone read, Alana Mitchell, 1959 to 1991. Her dreams were stolen, but her courage brought justice. Tyler West remains in Georgia State Penitentiary. In 2018, he gave one prison interview. "I think about her every day," he said. What I took from her family. I deserve to be here." Samantha Ward retired in 2019. At her retirement ceremony, she called Alana's case the most important work I've ever done. It taught me that time doesn't erase truth. Evidence waits, justice waits. And eventually, science finds the truth. Delta Airlines established the Alana Mitchell Memorial Scholarship in 2015 for aspiring flight attendants. The application asks, "What does courage mean to you?" April 2014. Atlanta held a memorial service for Alana Mitchell at the same church where her mother's funeral had been held 8 years earlier. Delta Airlines sent representatives. Former co-workers who remembered Alana's bright smile and dedication to her job shared memories. Madison Grant's sister spoke on behalf of the family, her voice shaking with emotion as she thanked the detectives who never gave up on finding the truth. Detective Samantha Ward stood at the podium and addressed the crowd. "Alana Mitchell fought back in her final moments," Samantha said. "She scratched her killer. She marked him. She left evidence that would survive 2 decades. That evidence sat waiting for the right technology, waiting for someone to look at this case with fresh eyes, waiting for justice. It took 21 years, But Alana's courage in those final seconds is what ultimately convicted her murderer. Brooke Carter also spoke, tears streaming down her face as she remembered her friend. Alana was brave. She said no to someone who threatened her. She stood up for what was right even when it was dangerous. That courage cost her everything. But it also saved her memory. Because of what she did, because she fought back, we finally know the truth. Alana's remains were buried at Greenwood Cemetery in Decatur, beside her mother Madison's grave. The headstone was simple but powerful. Alana Mitchell, 1959 to 1991. Her dreams were stolen, but her courage brought justice. Every year on May 15th, someone leaves fresh white roses on Alana's grave. No one knows who, but the flowers never stop coming. Tyler West remains in Georgia State Penitentiary, serving life without parole. In 2018, 6 years after his conviction, he agreed to a prison interview with a local Atlanta news station. The interviewer asked him if he had any message for Alana's family. Tyler's eyes were hollow, his face aged beyond his years. "I think about her every day," he said quietly. "I see her face. I hear her voice saying she was going to the police. I panicked. I took everything from her, everything, her dreams, her future, her family's peace. I deserve to be here. I'll die here, and that's justice." The interviewer asked if he felt remorse. Tyler nodded slowly. "Every single day, but remorse doesn't bring her back. It doesn't give her family those 21 years of not knowing. It doesn't undo what I did. I hope other men who think they can control women, who think violence is the answer, I hope they see what happened to me. I hope they learn." Samantha Ward retired from the Atlanta Police Department in 2019 after 25 years of service. At her retirement ceremony, she was asked about the case that meant the most to her in her career. Without hesitation, she answered, "Alana Mitchell. That case taught me that time doesn't erase truth. Evidence waits, justice waits, and eventually, if you're patient enough, if you're determined enough, science finds the truth." Samantha continued, "I think about all the families who never get closure, all the bodies that are never found, all the cases that go cold because we didn't have the technology or the resources or the witnesses. But Alana's case shows that we can't give up. We have to keep looking, keep testing, keep fighting, because every victim deserves their story to be told. Every family deserves the truth." Delta Airlines established the Alana Mitchell Memorial Scholarship in 2015 for young women pursuing careers as flight attendants. The scholarship provides $10,000 annually to students who demonstrate resilience, courage, and dedication in the same qualities Alana showed throughout her life. The application includes one essay question: what does courage mean to you, and how will you use it to stand up for what's right? In 2020, more than 100 applications were submitted. The winner was a 22-year-old woman from Atlanta named Jasmine Cross, who wrote about escaping an abusive relationship and rebuilding her life. In her essay, Jasmine referenced Alana's story. Alana Mitchell said no when it mattered most. She refused to be used. She refused to be controlled. That courage cost her life, but it also saved countless others. Because her story teaches us that saying no, setting boundaries, choosing ourselves is worth fighting for. Even when it's dangerous, even when it's hard. The science that solved Alana's case continues to solve cold cases across the country. DNA analysis that was impossible in 1991 is now routine. Ground-penetrating radar technology has located bodies buried for decades. Forensic genealogy has identified killers who thought they'd gotten away with murder 30, 40, even 50 years ago. In 2021, Dr. Rebecca Hughes, the forensic pathologist who extracted the DNA evidence from Alana's fingernails, gave a presentation at a National Forensic Science Conference. She used Alana's case as an example of why preservation of evidence is critical, even in cases that seem unsolvable at the time. In 1991, that skin tissue under Alana Mitchell's fingernails was essentially useless, Dr. Hughes explained to the audience of forensic scientists and law enforcement officers. "We didn't have the technology to extract meaningful DNA from such degraded samples. But investigators preserved that evidence anyway. They cataloged it, they stored it properly, And 20 years later, when the technology caught up, that evidence became the key to solving the case. The lesson here is simple. Preserve everything. You never know what future science will be able to do. Alana Mitchell's story is fiction, but it represents real cases. Thousands of women have been killed by intimate partners. Many remain missing, but forensic science has solved hundreds of cold cases in the past 2 decades. DNA testing, ground-penetrating radar, advances that give families closure they thought would never come.